Hey guys, how are you? I hope you're all doing very well. This evening I'm going to be doing another movie review. This movie is a horror film from Australia, English language, released in the year 2016, directed by Luke Spark, and this film is called Red Billabong. So Billabong is about two brothers. Their grandfather has just passed away, so they've gone to his farm in order to take care of business. Now, on one hand, they actually want to give this farm to the local Aboriginal tribe, which is what the granddad's dying wish was, and on the other hand, they're actually getting a big offer of money from a guy who wants to buy the land off them. So they have to determine what they're going to do, but then as the days progress, they start to realise that there's a terrifying secret behind this farm that dates back thousands of years. So their situation is about to spiral into a nightmare, and what that nightmare is something you're going to have to find out for yourself, because that's as far as I'm going with my synopsis. Now my thoughts on Red Billabong. Coming into this film, I had no expectations whatsoever. It has a horrible score on IMDb. Now, as I said, I know better than to judge a film based on IMDb, but when you get a horrible score, I go in there with limited expectations. And number two, I thought the trailer looked really, really bad. So it's not a great start to come into a film feeling this way, but I got it very cheap on DVD. And after seeing the film, I will say that it does have a lot of problems, but it's nowhere near as bad as I first anticipated. In fact, I actually enjoyed myself quite a bit in this experience. So if you are a fan of monster films, I would definitely recommend you check this one out, because although it's got a lot of negatives, the interesting part of Red Billabong is that it delves into Australian mythology. And when it comes to Australian Dreamtime stories told by Aboriginals, not a lot of films do this. In fact, I can't even remember a film that has depicted Australian mythology. So that is very interesting. That is its draw card, and I thought it uses that draw card very well, in that you do have a little bit of an insight into what the Aboriginal people believed. And in this case, it's the bunyip. A bunyip's a terrifying creature, and for every Australian, you will appreciate what this film is doing. It feels like a very patriotic Australian film. It's using Australian mythology, Australian actors, and it's also using a lot of Australian music. So this is something I could really connect to, and I think it's something that foreign audiences can really connect to as well, because you're learning something different. You're learning something about our great nation and about our great Dreamtime stories. And so the Aboriginal culture is an absolutely fascinating one. When I was young, I would always read up about Aboriginal Dreamtime stories because they're just so imaginative, that they're just absolutely thrilling to actually read. And so when the bunyip is splashed on the screen, I thought, yes, okay, it was about time an Australian film has actually depicted this. And so there's a lot of intrigue based on that alone. And that's the reason why I actually wanted to give this film a go, is that when I heard it was about a bunyip, I thought, okay, definitely, if this is a bad film, then okay. But at least now we've got something that's trying to show foreign audiences what Australia is all about. So it has a very strong Australian essence that makes the film interesting and somewhat forgives a lot of the problems that the film has. So I thought very, very competently made as far as production is concerned. Cinematography was very well shot. I thought it used the vast land of this farm very well, because a lot of the film is up to your imagination. You can't actually see the bunyip. And when the bunyip's making noises, you don't know where this bunyip is. And so because it's such a vast land, it gives you that creepiness of this farm is harbouring something that is thousands of years old, and you don't know where it is, but you can actually hear it. So it's using your imagination. You're actually able to snowball this bunyip inside your head. You don't know what it's going to look like, and this is what a lot of these films do well in the monster sort of subgenre, is that if you can't hear it, it's snowballing, and you've got the anticipation for when it actually shows that it's going to bring all your nightmares to life. And so I thought the anticipation of that was actually quite well done. I thought the characters were very likeable, very surprisingly likeable. I expected just some really bad acting, but I didn't get that. I thought it was very competently written, and the acting was very serviceable. Now, the main character is of Home and Away, I believe. I haven't actually seen Home and Away since I was very, very young, but it didn't actually feel that these were TV stars. It actually felt like they were competent actors. And what I mean by that, a lot of these TV stars, they're not very good, but in this film, they actually portray characters that you could actually connect to. I didn't really love them, but at least I could get into them. So when the side stories come about, there is a problem with the side stories, but at least it wasn't unbearable. At least, okay, when the monster wasn't on the screen, it was filling in time somewhat competently. So again, that worked very well, and there were some very good set pieces of horror. And as I said, when the mythology expands, it actually gets more and more interesting. So I think the director did a great job at actually getting this little idea, getting this little Dreamtime story, and just expanding it to a point that keeps you in that intrigue. And that, as I said, the sense of anticipation is coming up to a point where when it actually throws what you actually see, you think to yourself, okay, is this going to live up to the imagination, or is this going to be a bit of a letdown? And unfortunately, that's the biggest problem to Red Billabong, is that when it comes time for the anticipation to come out onto the screen, and when it's time for your imagination to actually see what you've been thinking, it's a massive letdown. It's very, very mediocre looking. And this is a problem with a lot of CGI films. If you're going to do CGI, that is a big risk, because if it's not looking great, it can really take you out of the experience. And unfortunately, it really did take me out of the experience. And fortunately, it's not till the very end where you actually get to see it. So the build-up, and I thought it was very effective in the way it was actually using the bunyip. But when it comes time for its major draw card, as far as a monster subgenre is concerned, it looked really bad. I was unintentionally very funny. I was laughing at it quite a bit, and that really took me out of the experience. And I just thought the anticipation and the use of the imagination was a lot better than what you're actually seeing. So it's definitely a case of showing less is best, but I can applaud them for actually trying something within the Australian cinema scene, because not a lot of Australian films take on these movies. And another problem I had, which wasn't a huge problem, but the characters. Now, yes, they were likeable and the side stories were somewhat interesting, but when you go into a monster film, you're expecting the monster to be centre stage. But unfortunately, there are large parts of this film where the monster is playing second fiddle. So you've got these characters and they're going on about their life stories and the relationships and the past sort of relationships they had. And although, you know, it is funny at times, I still thought it was taking away from what the film's main strength was. And as I said, it's about the horror element. This is a monster film. It's supposed to be a very fun and action-packed film. And yes, it does have action, but I thought it was taking itself a little bit too seriously for its own good. And it does start to sidetrack what it wants to do. So that became a little bit frustrating for me, but fortunately it didn't derail it, because at least these characters were somewhat likable, and I didn't really feel as though it was a chore to actually watch. So as I said, it should have just had a little bit more attention to that mythology, but it is there. Unfortunately, when it comes time to show off what its main draw card is, it does hurt itself quite a bit. But having said that, as I said, nowhere near as bad as some people make it out to be. I enjoyed it, and for that I'm going to give Red Billabong 2.5 stars. Alright guys, that's it for my review. Hope you enjoyed it. Till next time, keep watching movies, and I'll see you later.